The Monday, April 11th, 2022 meeting of the Marquette City Commission is now called to order at 6 p.m. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Bonzal.
Here.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Hanley. Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Stonehouse. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Mayor.
Here.
And Mayor Smith.
Here. Commissioners, do we have a motion to excuse Commissioner Hanley? Commissioner Hill?
I move that Commissioner Hanley be excused for this meeting.
Do we have a second? Pro Tem Mayor?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Up next, we have the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion on this agenda? Commissioner Davis.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
And a second, Commissioner Bonzal.
I'll second that motion, Your Honor.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Announcements, I have two announcements this evening. So one, I have a couple of public hearings that I'd like to inform the public about. This is for the Planning Commission. On April 12th, which is tomorrow at 6 p.m. here in Commission Chambers, the Planning Commission will have on their agenda rezoning of city property from municipal to conservation recreation, also some amendments to the Land Development Code, and amendment of the Community Master Plan, which will to include the Ad Hoc Housing Committee final report as a new appendix. More information can be found on the City Marquette website under the Planning Commission documentation for tomorrow night. I just wanted to announce that. My second announcement is to let everyone know that we do have the Marquette Choral Society, some of the members here in the audience. I wanted to take a moment to recognize that it is their 50th anniversary this year, and we're very grateful for their song and bringing music here into the city of Marquette. The item that the proclamation is on consent, which is 4D, which is a little later in the meeting. However, it will take some time to get to that, and it's my understanding that they have a choral rehearsal at 7 o'clock. So if those in attendance in the audience would mind to stand up, I'll go ahead and recognize you. And I just wanted to wish you, on behalf of the entire City Commission and City Marquette, congratulations on 50 years. And if everyone would please join me for a quick round of applause. Thank you all. We really appreciate you being here tonight and for filling our lives with music here in the city of Marquette. You are welcome to stay for the proclamation, but if you need to leave, feel free to leave at any point. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item number 1 on our agenda, boards and committees. We have one appointment. Commissioners, we have a motion on this appointment. Commissioner Davis.
I move we appoint Suzanne Williams to the Peter White Public Library Board of Trustees for a term ending May 1st, 2027.
22, maybe?
22, 27.
Just making sure. I see it now. Thank you. Sorry, that was my mistake here. I know I am. Thank you, Commissioner Davis. We have a second on that motion. Commissioner, or Pro Tem Mayor.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion, Commissioner Davis? Pro Tem Mayor, any discussion?
No, just thank you for serving.
Anyone else? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We have 2 reappointments. Do we have a motion on these reappointments? Commissioner Stonehouse?
Your Honor, I motion to reappoint Wayne Primo to the Planning Commission for term ending 02/15-25, and Eric Johnson to the Presque Isle Advisory Committee for a term ending 04/01/25.
And we have a second on that motion. Pro Tem Mayor?
I'll second the motion.
And any discussion, Commissioner Stonehouse?
Only that they're 2 great citizens from Marquette that are stepping up to keep us moving forward, and certainly we all commend that.
Pro Tem Mayor, any discussion?
I'm just very thankful that they decided to continue to serve.
Any other commissioners? All in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to our first public comment session of the evening. Public comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. If you'd like to make a public comment, please approach the center podium and clearly state your name and physical address.
My name is Todd Lee. My address is 237 North Lakeshore Boulevard in Marquette. I'm the president of the executive board of the Marquette Choral Society. I'd like to thank the mayor and the commissioners for recognizing Marquette Choral Society on its 50th anniversary year. We really owe our existence to the support of all the members of the community who really enjoy the arts and culture here. Also to the generosity of our donors and the continued support from Northern Michigan University and its music department. Our conductor is here, Dr. Aaron Kolitz tonight. Also the singers who share their talent with all of us in the community and make the music. Some of the singers in the Choral Society have been singing for the whole 50 years that the Choral Society has been in existence. We have a few of them here tonight. We have Carol Bart and John and Pauline Kiltonen. So thank you all for coming, and thanks for singing for us for so long. I really appreciate it. For me, this support of the arts in the city of Marquette is one of the things that really makes Marquette a wonderful place to live. So thank you and all the people of Marquette for supporting the Choral Society. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Margaret Brum, 404 East Magnetic Street, Marquette, Michigan. Always I seem to follow the people who bring joy and laughter to our world by being pleasant with news that is not as pleasant. I've started my spring cleanup. And when I say I've started my spring cleanup, I wasn't intending to start my spring cleanup, but every time I was getting out of the car, I was finding more and more litter. And I want to put a proposal in front of this commission to ponder. State of Michigan has very hefty fines for littering. And I can read this straight from the law book. It basically says, litter amounts less than 1 cubic foot, fine up to $800, greater than 1 cubic foot, $1,500, litter amounts greater than 3, $2,500. And then if you throw litter into the path of a moving vehicle or on the highway, you can be imprisoned for 1 year, fine up to $500 or both. In addition to penalties, the court may also require violators to pay for the cost of litter removal. I think it's time to make Marquette a place where littering costs real money, because I don't see any change in the last year, even though I've been making noise as much as I can about the amount and the different types of litter. I just don't see any change. The law in the state permits this type of fining. Now, I know all of you are thinking, oh my God, we'll scare off the tourists. Well, I submit to you that any tourist that comes up here and uses our city as a dumping ground maybe is not a neighbor we want. But I'd also submit to you that in a time of fiscal challenges, these fines are already on the book for the state. We wouldn't be doing anything that the state already doesn't do. And we have a tremendous, unfortunately, visceral problem getting our act together in terms of where we dump stuff. And I've heard all the excuses. I've heard, oh, it's expensive to put it in the landfill, and it's $1.50 a bag. That's not that expensive. But more importantly, there's a culture that says, I will just throw it away. And as much as I like to have people feel comfortable here, I really would like to propose that you ponder this and look at the local littering rules we have, which I don't think are as tough as these ones. And I would like you to make Marquette a place where every hotel posts the fines for littering within the city limits. So it's not a question of we're picking on any one group or any one event, but we're letting people know that this is not a place to come to litter. Because the first thing that happens to ruin a beautiful place is when you see garbage on it. And I can post garbage every day if I want to, and I just get sick of it, so I don't. So please consider this very seriously as an opportunity for the city to let people know we value our natural resources. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Anyone else? Seeing no further public comment is now closed. Up next, we have a presentation from the Marquette Housing Commission by the Executive Director, Sharon Mackey. Thanks for joining us tonight, Sharon. If you want to come over to the side podium, please. We'll have a presentation.
Thank you for inviting us to your meeting and allowing us to do this presentation. We're going to start off with Jackie to give some of the basics, and then I'll pick up afterwards.
Hi, I'm Jackie Stark. I'm a commissioner on the Housing Commission, and I'm just going to do the beginning, and then I'll hand it back to Sharon. So we'll just go to the next slide. So our mission statement is to provide safe, sanitary, affordable housing to low and moderate income individuals and families, and to promote personal responsibility and self-sufficiency to residents while maintaining fiscal integrity. Also, to provide adequate and affordable housing, economic opportunity, and a suitable living environment free from discrimination. We have a 5-member governing body, and I just wanted to add a little pitch in. We currently have an opening, and I know this is housing is an important issue to this commission. It's an important issue to many people in this community, and this is a really fantastic way to get involved. The Housing Commission is responsible for providing housing. So I would just say, I know there's a lot of people interested in the topic, and we would love to have a full board. So Yorm McLincoln is our president. John Norberg, myself, and Michelle Metz is our newest commissioner, and we do have the 1 vacancy. Our meetings are the 4th Tuesday of every month at noon. And we typically hold them at Pine Ridge, though I think once a year we try to go to Lake Superior as well. The staff, Sharon is our executive director. Sharon and Susan are who I mostly deal with. But I did go to a couple of trainings now that COVID restrictions have eased a little bit. They've started to have more housing commissioner trainings, and I was able to go to both certifications this year. And I got to meet a lot of the people on the staff, which was great to get to meet the people that actually do the work. So that was nice.
Geez, thanks.
Yeah, besides you, in addition to you. So what we do and how we pay our staff. We administer HUD's Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. We provide 50 housing choice vouchers in the city of Marquette and outlying areas. And HUD pays us an administrative fee for every voucher that we lease. The number of vouchers varies depending on HUD wants us to do, and that's a monthly conversation that we have. And then we also are given property management fees for each apartment at Pine Ridge and Lake Superior Village that we are managing. So now I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Sharon.
Okay, so as we've made this rather dramatic change from having public housing units to RAD and just managing those units, we need to take a look at where we're going in the future. So what we're looking at is to definitely assist the city to build affordable housing and workforce housing within the city limits, increase HCV voucher utilization within the city. I have some statistics later on that. Manage private and subsidized housing properties, strengthen community partnerships, and increase Marquette Housing Commission revenue. So how do we do this? Some of our steps. We find and secure funding to build affordable housing. We project-base HCV vouchers and new or existing housing. What that basically means is instead of somebody having a voucher and going out in the community, they're utilizing that voucher in a building. So that voucher is attached to the building, so it would never leave the city. Determine what types of housing are needed, and the city is looking at doing a survey, so that will be helpful. Educate the public about our assets and goals, what the Housing Commission is able to do and what we would like to do. Become recognized as a property manager. We have been seen as public housing. We've never really been seen as a management agent, and I think that's something we would like to do. Make developers aware of our ability to manage their properties and learn what gaps we can fill for other agencies to help them reach their goals. Some of the challenges, which I'm sure you all know these challenges, but I'm just going to reiterate them all. There's a limited amount of undeveloped property in the city of Marquette. I believe there's 3 areas that could potentially be developed that are owned by the city. And as I was driving in this morning, I was looking, and there is quite a bit of empty land that we don't know. I don't know who owns it, so maybe we could do some investigation with that. The other thing is our incredibly high construction costs, hoping that that will level out and maybe even come down soon. Short-term rentals, you all know that they have reduced the number of rental units available, and the cost of the available rental units have increased drastically due to those. Here's a little visual on what is available in the city of Marquette. This was from a rental site, rent.com. So this is probably not real accurate, but you can see there are not a whole lot of places that are for rent, and you can see what is for rent is rather expensive. I never rented a place for $2,200 a month, and I don't know who can really afford that or want to spend that kind of money. This is an apartment that was listed. I blacked out where you could find it. But this is what people are paying $1,250 for. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. There's the kitchen and living room. Unfortunately, that's what you're looking at getting in Marquette if you're renting an apartment in Marquette. So some of the other challenges as we're moving forward is the vouchers. We have vouchers. We encourage people to use them here in the city. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen often because of those prices that we've seen. So out of the 35 families we currently have, 15 of those are in the state or in the city of Marquette. 5 are private landlords. 4 of them are at Grandview and 2 of them are at Oriana Ridge. And there is an AFC home that has 4 of those vouchers. So there's people with disabilities all living in that home. So as you can see, there's only 5 private landlords out of all of those that are actually renting using a voucher. As you can see, I have listed the prices. Their average rent for a 1-bedroom in the city of Marquette is $1,000. Our vouchers pay $707. We go all the way up to $1,572 for a 4-bedroom. However, a 4-bedroom in this area is going to cost well over $2,000. So one of the wise people I met a while ago said we can't voucher our way out of this. That's what, unfortunately, the federal government, I'll call them out, seems to think that the more vouchers we pump out there, the more we're going to be able to solve the housing problem. That's not how we're going to solve the housing problem, and those statistics proved why that's not going to happen. So some of our challenges moving forward is developers have come into the area and they have used low-income housing tax credits. There is a limit on how much you can make for a low-income housing tax credit. If you're going to be a family of 8, the maximum you can make is $72,000. Family of 4, $55,000. That is not housing that I think the city is looking at doing. So every time we have somebody come in that's building those LIHTC properties, those are the limitations that you're looking for. So just as a commission, be aware of the fact that if you are looking at focusing on those middle income people, this is not who's being served with those. In the Section 8 voucher, which is what we use, a family of 4 can spend up to $32,900. So that's an even lower amount. So we definitely need to look at a way to get some housing for these other folks. The problem with that, though, is there is no financial incentive to build affordable housing. There are no, well, first of all, let me go back a step. There's a difference between affordable housing and workforce housing. Affordable housing is subsidized housing. Workforce is non-subsidized housing for households earning 60 to 120% of the area average median income. So that's a totally different group that we're looking at, and there's no way to get a subsidy for that. So if I want to go out and build a 6-building apartment, I have to do that with loan money and then recoup that money from the rental income. With the current prices, that would be a very difficult challenge, but I think it's something we're going to be looking at. So moving forward anyway, so we're going to keep plugging away. We have a meeting coming up in July, a strategic planning meeting. I have invited the city manager to join us so that we can take a look at some of the things that are happening, and anybody else that is interested in coming, by all means come. I'm working with Michelle LaJoy from CAM, and hopefully we're going to be able to make that teamwork work and get some housing here in Marquette. So thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Very informative presentation. I had scanned at it before, but hearing you talk about it, a lot of folks in Marquette are working on this problem, and it's really good to see some of the data behind it. I know we've investigated before, but it's been a while since we've looked at some of the numbers, and you presented even a little bit more, different view, different lens, and I
Kind of had a
appreciate
shock factor going there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate your willingness to take a stab at this complicated issue alongside us, and I'm glad to hear the city manager will be a part of your strategic planning, and we're starting on our strategic planning too, and I know we'll work closely together to make sure that our goals are aligned, so thank you. Commissioners, I think I'll start with Pro Tem Mayor and go down the line if anyone has questions or comments for Sharon or Jackie. Go ahead, Pro Tem Mayor.
Thank you both for, there we go. Thank you both for coming, presenting to us, and bringing us some good info and statistics. I would be curious to know are you having issues with people getting their vouchers accepted by landlords in the area at all?
We have several landlords that refuse to take them.
Would you say it's, is that kind of a select few, or is it like half?
One is a large landlord that probably has at least 30% of the properties, and another one has like another 20. So, and then there's miscellaneous landlords here and there. So, it's definitely a problem. Definitely a problem. The big places that accept them are Oriana and the Preserve, the Preserve and Grandview, which is why we have people there.
Thank you. So that would probably then be over half of the vouchers you guys aren't able to use.
In the city, definitely. Well, 15 out of 35 are being used in the city. And basically, everybody that gets a voucher wants to live in the city. That's their first goal.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that was the only thing I'd have thought in my head.
Commissioner Hill?
Thank you. I don't understand, math. You say there's 50 housing vouchers, but there's 35 families being served?
There's 15 being utilized in the city of Marquette. The other 20 are being utilized outside of the city of Marquette.
Okay.
They're in Gwynn, the Base, Ishpeming.
So, so you serve countywide?
Yes.
Okay. And then, do folks, once they have a place to live with a voucher, are there any requirements for folks to move on, or can they stay in that place for a long time, or how does that?
They can stay there forever, as long as they're income eligible. They can go over a certain level of income, and after that point, they'll have 6 months that they can stay there, but after that, they would need to move on.
So how much turnover roughly do you see?
Not a lot. The last few that we've seen turnover, unfortunately, were people that passed away.
Yeah, I was just going to say, not that we want people to move on, but it is another part of the problem. You find a place and you reasonably want to stay. And so to me, that's another indicator why we need more housing, and not just that we are characterizing housing, or that vouchers don't solve the problem, because what we need literally are just physically more buildings.
It's kind of like giving you gas, but not a car.
Yeah. And then with the renovations, I think both properties that you manage had gone through some substantial upgrades. Is that all done? And
Yes,
things
there's some straggling little items left, but basically, yes, they are all done. Looking forward to spring when everything is all fresh and new.
You had an open house, and I was unfortunately working until the very end. But I want to also recognize the investments that have gone into these properties, substantial investments, and those were primarily federal dollars. Could you just walk?
Those were LIHTC.
Yeah. So could you walk through that real quick, just so people understand that there's actually been a fair amount of millions of dollars actually put into these housing units, and it's not like anybody's been standing still, but we've had this sort of tsunami of things happen at the same time.
There was around $9 million at Pine Ridge and about the same amount at Lake Superior Village. They were previously properties that were owned by the federal government. The federal government would give us a certain amount of money for capital improvements. We could not leverage those to get any additional money. So we were restricted on what we were able to do, and there was no way. When you were getting $600,000 at most a year for both properties, you can maintain what you can maintain, but you can't create any new. So we were able to sell those properties, and ASUP, which is Affordable Housing Solutions of the Upper Peninsula, is currently the owner, along with our investors. LIHTC owners are low-income housing tax credit investors. They own 99% of the buildings right now. When they are paid off, then the ownership will go back to ASUP.
And is that ASUP, is that a nonprofit or?
Yes.
Yeah, so I know that started when that started back in 2018, and now here we are, and I just want to recognize all of the work that went into that, and how that's also providing a better opportunity for the residents of Marquette, plus the jobs that came with doing all those renovations. So thank you, and I'm glad that we're going to be doing more going forward to look at how we can get more housing built. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you very much for such a honest, straightforward, and I guess I'll say realistic brief. I really appreciate getting good, solid data, good information, and understanding more thoroughly, and I think everybody in the city should too, the fight that the Housing Commission is doing for us in trying to find affordable and workforce housing. This is certainly a very important component of your mission, as you identified, but also being realistic enough to point out the challenges and the difficulties we have to overcome to get there. That this is not a simple slam dunk, it's not a simple pass an ordinance, it's not a simple build another small development somewhere. It's a problem that's going to take a long time to address, and certainly a more difficult time to imagine how to get there. But I do appreciate your comments on it, and certainly all of the work that you've been doing for the city over many years. Thank you, and thank everybody that works for the Housing Commission, because I understand the teamwork that you have. Having been there when we had the fire on the high-rise, we really saw people step forward and do the extra to make the mission work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bonzo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Sharon, Jackie, thank you both for this presentation, but also for all the work you're doing on the Housing Commission, and all the time and effort that you both committed to helping out with the city's ad hoc housing committee. I think it's promising to see some of the recommendations that our committee made being considered by the Planning Commission tomorrow, and as part of the Land Development Code amendments and things like that. So I think that made a positive difference, and hopefully we'll continue seeing kind of some of the fruits of that labor moving forward. I'm curious if you can provide us a bit of an update on what your vacancy rates and waiting lists are looking like at Pine Ridge and LSV, especially maybe if there's differences between different types of units. That would be interesting.
Pine Ridge has 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. We do have a 2-bedroom apartment for disabled that we've had a little bit of a challenge filling. Other than that, those apartments can be turned over in 3 to 4 weeks without a problem. The waiting list is a very volatile thing. There is a lot of paperwork with the new LIHTC system, and unfortunately there are times when we can have 20 people on the waiting list, but only 2 people are able and willing to get all that necessary paperwork in. So the waiting list isn't necessarily indicative of people that are wanting to come in there. LSV is 2, 3, and 4 bedroom. The 2 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms are very, very popular. Long waiting list for those. Never have a problem filling. LSV is also, I think there's 1 vacancy right now, maybe. It's the 3 bedrooms that are more challenging over there. And with our new income structure, I was going to ask today and I forgot to, but I know we are turning away applicants because they are over income. So that is one of our challenges that we're facing.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's helpful. I think that you did a good job in your presentation of touching on the fact that we're not going to be able to voucher our way out of this problem. That I think, Commissioner Hill had a good line of questioning there where, we're talking about, just the problem that we can have these vouchers, and even with just 50 vouchers, which arguably isn't enough, people still are having a hard time finding places where they can actually use them, even in the county as a whole, not just in the city. So, I mean, to me, that seems like we just need new construction of affordable housing. We need to expand the supply. This is starting to look like a supply and demand problem to a large degree. So, in that spirit, I'm curious, I think that, we certainly are limited in terms of city-owned properties. I think, maybe we can try and get a little creative, find more than, just there's 2 or 3, I think, city-owned properties that immediately come to mind, but perhaps there are more we could find in our property inventory that might work for some type of housing development. But I'm just curious more broadly what opportunities you think there are for the Marquette Housing Commission to help develop new affordable housing in Marquette. I think you alluded to that in your presentation, but what maybe ideas have you been kicking around as a group, or is that a conversation that still kind of needs to happen in full?
I think that's the conversation we're going to be having in July. So we've kind of started talking about it, but the conversion to RAD, which we just completed, took up pretty much everybody's time. And then we've spent the last few months kind of getting used to this new system and how it runs. And so now I think we're ready to kind of look forward and see, now that we are in this new system, what we can do with it. So that's what we're going to do in July.
And I can put forth that looking at renovations is going to be something that I'm going to be very interested in doing.
When you say look at renovations, like to your existing properties or potentially to other properties?
Others.
Others? Okay. That's interesting. So potentially creating some new housing units through renovations to existing buildings?
Correct.
That's cool.
It's
I
the
like that.
low-hanging fruit. It's easier to do that than to find land and then build on that land.
Yeah, well, and that would certainly be in line with our master plan and the housing committee report. That's interesting. I was curious, I just wanted to, I guess maybe put a pin in a couple things that you mentioned. First of all, I'm curious if you've been in touch with the NMU Foundation at all, or have any plans to get connected maybe with whoever the ultimate master developer is that's selected for that property, and see if there are any opportunities there. Is that something that you've all talked about at all?
No, I think it's something we could talk about in July, but that project, I don't know much about it, but it's still in its infancy as well. I think they haven't finalized anything either, so.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to point out that I think maybe there are some opportunities there, right?
Agreed.
That it might make sense for the Housing Commission to be involved in those conversations in some capacity. And then I just wanted to note, I think that at least my sense of, the direction that the city commission has moved, and, in my sense of the recommendations of the housing committee, is that we need to focus both on middle income housing, that kind of missing middle, but also we do clearly need more lower income or affordable housing as well. And so I guess it's never been my sense that we have decided to exclusively focus on middle income, or that we don't want to have LIHTC development in the city. Personally, I would hope that we're not discouraging anyone or turning down any opportunities for housing development because it might utilize low-income housing tax credits. So I definitely wanted to clearly voice that I think additional LIHTC development would be a great thing for the community. And I think generally speaking, that's kind of been, the commission has wanted to focus on both of those things, given that there is a need for both. But I'd be curious what my colleagues think about that as well.
If I can add just a little addition on to the waiting list question. Part of the reason we were having such challenges filling those 3-bedroom units is because they were the lower income tier. If you have somebody in the 80%, we fill those units immediately. The very low income, that's the challenge. So I don't know, again, I don't know how many units can be filled at that rate when we were having such a challenge.
Commissioner Davis?
I can't add anything more to the thank you or to the question. So just once again, thank you for bringing the report to us.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again for joining us this evening. Always appreciate seeing you. And you know, as Sharon knows, I got my start on the Housing Commission back in 2015. It's always great to see you again.
And you're coming back afterwards, right?
I have to take a 2-year break, actually, but
I'll go by like
for
nothing.
charter. Thank you both. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to consent agenda, item 4. Commissioners, we have a motion on consent. Commissioner Stonehouse,
Your Honor, I motion to accept the consent agenda as written.
and do we have a second? Commissioner Davis,
I'll second that motion.
any discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And that brings us to new business, item 5, amended and restated trucking corridor agreement. City Clerk, could we have the background, please?
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Marquette and Eagle Mine LLC have been party to an agreement allowing the use of city streets as a haul route between mining facilities. The original agreement included specific identification of the route, characterization of haul traffic, and a schedule of payments to be made for maintenance and capital improvements, as well as additional public safety improvements that address previously identified community and area concerns. Several improvements to Wright Street have already been made as a result of this agreement. Eagle Mine has requested an extension of this agreement due to a prolongment in the expected life of the mine. They've agreed to move up the payment of the $2.7 million lump sum and make it payable upon the execution of the agreement, and have agreed to pay up to $134,000 per year from 2025 to 2028, depending on use. Fiscal effect: the city will receive $2.7 million when the amended agreement goes into effect, and can receive up to an additional $621,907, depending on corridor usage and the extended life of the Eagle Mine. Recommendation: approve the amended and restated trucking corridor agreement and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have a motion on this item? Commissioner Stonehouse?
Your Honor, I motion to approve the amended and restated trucking corridor agreement and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement.
And do we have a second? I'm sorry, Commissioner Hill.
I second that motion.
Commissioner Stonehouse, any discussion?
I think it's a fair change to the agreement. The basic agreement has served the city very well. This extension, I think, will continue to do so.
Commissioner Hill?
I do have a couple of questions. So this lump sum, I just want to get the timing a little more clear. I think the background was good, but just in comparison to what was there, just to draw a little. So the 2.7 million was always designed to come at the end of the project. So now that it's not, like, what was sort of the thought of having it at the end previously, and what would happen if we don't have that at the end? I just want to understand what that means. Is there anything in particular?
So at this point, we don't have any immediate plans to spend that 2.7 million for the rebuilding of that road. So what it will do is be received and will most likely be saved in order for us to in the future rebuild that road. So just for clarification as well, the $2.7 million payment was going to be made in 2022, so that's what is still going to occur. And then there would be 2 years after that, there would be use of that road without payment. And that still actually stands as well. And then they will also pick up, add on some more maintenance payments 2 years after this.
Okay.
So that structure stays the same, the 2.7 million, and then the 2 years following with no payment.
And these funds will stay dedicated to road, but not just to Wright Street? That would go beyond that?
It's intended to rebuild that area for that road that was used for all these years.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Thank you for helping me get clear on that. And then, so that's Presque Isle to Wright. And then,
No, actually, it's not.
Okay.
It would be, let's see, Holly to Sugarloaf to Wright.
that's what I
and then
meant.
out of the city.
Sugarloaf is what I meant. Yeah, Holly to Sugarloaf to Wright. Thank you. Including the roundabouts.
Correct,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really glad that we have the chance to have that, the use be recognized, and that it seems like a really good agreement that's worked out well for the city, and I haven't heard, there's the truck traffic, but people understand, and that it's being compensated for. I haven't heard too many complaints about it. Thank you.
Commissioners, any other discussion on this item? Commissioner Bonzo?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say, I appreciate the effort that city staff put into, I think, negotiating a really solid amendment to this agreement. And I mean, it's been almost a decade, right? About little under 8 years since this agreement was originally negotiated. And I think it's worth, recognizing and reiterating that, especially at that time, I mean, this is a pretty groundbreaking kind of agreement for us to be able to have these kind of negotiations, extract these kind of commitments to compensate our community for, negative impacts from the mine. This is the kind of thing that many communities are not able to get anywhere near these kind of commitments. So I think that this is definitely something that we can be looked to as a model around the state and really the country for having this kind of trucking corridor agreement. And I'm glad that we're going to be able to mitigate any of those impacts to our city infrastructure.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Stonehouse?
I would just point out, to tag along with Commissioner Bonzel, is that that agreement was negotiated by 3 city commissioners and the city manager. And at the time the agreement was made, it was the first time, to my knowledge, in the history of mankind, that any mining company was ever willing to pay for the damage they were doing going through a city and from their heavy equipment and movement. This was literally groundbreaking, as you have said, and I was very proud to be part of that committee, and I can assure you it was not an easy negotiation under any light. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, and well done, Commissioner Stonehouse. Thank you for the history. Appreciate it, sincerely. All right, let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to our second public comment session of the evening. Members of the public wishing to address the commission have 3 minutes to do so. Please clearly state your name and physical address. Anyone for public comment?
Margaret Brum, 404 East Magnetic Street. As I was saying, raising the fees for littering and garbage collection is not necessarily a popular thing to do, except it is a necessary thing to do because it will lower the amount of time and effort that city crews have to put into cleaning up beaches, the annual 4th of July cleanup, and other issues that face the city. Another opportunity that lends itself to this is a weekly newsletter to be sent out by the city, and I hope you're working on your public information officer to the local hotels and motels in the area, letting them know current events, current situations in terms of, we have some very sad anniversaries in our town, anniversaries of people who went out to enjoy the lakes and didn't come back. And I think a little bit of reminder of that in every hotel room might remind people, when they see a sign that says, don't go over this sign, there's a cliff edge, they might actually understand that a person died last year doing just that. And again, these are not popular, make everybody feel good things, but the litter situation is not something that any one town can fix unless they make it clear to visitors and locals that it's not acceptable. I've been in Japan where they deal with litter. There's simply no trash cans anywhere, and you carry around your litter in your pockets all day till you get back to your hotel room. Not necessarily the situation I was thinking of, but there's no litter in Japan. I haven't had the situation where I've been to Singapore yet, but in Singapore it's even more draconian. And again, this is not a casual request. We have a pattern of people coming here. We blame it on the tourists. What I'm picking up right now is not tourist litter. I mean, tourists don't go to these places. It's businesses alongside 3rd Street, places like that. But also there's a theme here that we're so grateful that the tourists are here. We're willing to put up with a lot from them, except what they're doing now is destroying the things that they come here to enjoy. And so there's a fine line between inviting them here and then saying, but you can't litter. And I don't know how to pass that line. I'm just proposing it to the city that you look into this. And also a weekly reminder to the hotels. They could post it in their lobby. They could put it in every room. What's happening in town this week, the anniversaries of the tragic deaths of people who ignored warning signs, and the fact that most of the land out here, you can't get a cell phone signal on to call for help. I mean, last year we had people had to be pulled down off of Sugarloaf Mountain because they thought somebody was going to come and get them easily. They weren't even prepared to walk up a mountain. So that's my 2 public comments tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Anyone else? Seeing no further public comment is now closed. That brings us to comments from the commission. We'll start off with Commissioner Hill and go down the line.
Thank you. I just want to, another comment on the Choral Society. Their gala event is going to be April 20th, and the concert, 50th anniversary concert is April 23rd. They're going to sing Carmina Burana, which is a really incredible piece of music. If you Google it, you will have heard it in movies. It is, it's always, it's a showstopper, and I'm really excited to hear it done locally by folks right here in our community. And congratulations to the folks who sung all 50 years. That's really fantastic. I also want to say that I know we've got a big cleanup coming next with the sand coming off the roads. I think folks did a really good job with the ice that we had. I think it seems like there's a little more sand this year, and so I'm sure the crews are going to be on it, but be a little patient. That's a lot of work, and really appreciate the staff that do, I think, make our city look good. The question of how to remind people about litter, yes, it is true. I have worked in communities, and particularly in the parks, where there were no garbage cans. The way you solve litter is that you don't have garbage cans, actually. That is truly what you do. And then then there's no place for it to collect, and people do learn to not, to take stuff with them. It's one of those things where it's counterintuitive, but it actually is very effective. But it is a different way, and it's a big shift. And yeah, looking forward to this warm-up, I hope, not to jinx anything. Thank you.
Commissioner Stonehouse.
Your Honor, thank you. Had a random thought that you really, in Marquette, always have something to do. And anybody that would complain that there's nothing to do has got to be 7 days dead. When you think of, well, this past Saturday, for example, in the Sleeping Bear Festival that has become an annual rite of spring.
Angry Bear.
Angry Bear, Sleeping Bear. The beer was good. And the bands were great too. And now we segue that to the Choral Society and the wonderful event they're going to put on. And we'll just keep bouncing along the week like that.
Yeah.
So it's really, again, one of the reasons why living in Marquette is so incredibly special is to have those things happening. And unfortunately, though, it looks like the weather is going to get a little bit chilly here. So this wonderful tease we had today, I think, is just a wink in the eye. Thank you, Your Honor.
Commissioner Bonzel.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think the Bear's probably angry because we poked it awake a little bit too early. But at least maybe that's how we'll all feel in a couple days. But I did want to once again thank Sharon Mackey and Jackie Stark from the Marquette Housing Commission and the other folks serving on that commission for all the work that they're doing, and for really, I think, taking the housing challenges that our community is facing very seriously, and especially recently, trying to be a proactive part of the solution. and hopefully we can get that vacancy filled on that board relatively quickly. I would, reiterate what I mentioned at the work session that we had with the Planning Commission, where, I think that it was alluded to today. We need to figure out, what properties we have in the city where it would potentially make sense for there to be lower middle income housing development, and have that conversation publicly, here in this room as a commission, and follow through on the housing committee's recommendation to go through that process and eventually get some requests for proposals out there for those properties. That is something I would like to see us do this year. And I'm also curious if we can just get an update during city manager comments about the Presque Isle Marina, where we're at on that, and if we can, I know there was some local news coverage, and if we can just get some updates on that, hopefully we'll have some reasonably good news for folks.
Commissioner Davis?
I'm going to follow Commissioner Stonehouse with there's always something to do in Marquette. Oh, there. Now, there's always something to do in Marquette. And just make sure that people know about the art show that we have here at City Hall about the blue spotted salamander. And it's really a fun review of very creative artworks honoring the salamander. And I can't acknowledge the art show without honoring or acknowledging Eli Berry, who is our Northern Michigan University undergraduate student who identified the salamander, let the world know about it, close the road so we can protect it, and now we have another thing to do in Marquette, and that is to go out and look at the salamanders crossing the road. So, for all of that, it just makes, again, Marquette one more unique place.
I think I covered or Pro Tem Mayor, you're next. Sorry.
I had a couple quick things. One, I would like to just commend city staff for two different things. One, for renegotiating the amendment of our contract with the mine, but also for the Wright Street sidewalk extension and sidewalk repair, including the city's prevailing wage policy as an appendix in that. I was really happy when I saw that for the RFQ process, but just wanted to mention that. And one more thing, I don't honestly remember if we've mentioned this before or not, but as a new homeowner, I went to get my waste and recycling carts, and I realized that is quite a process to do so. If you don't have a printer hooked up at home, can't print the form off, email it, or scan it back. And I brought this up to the city manager and to our assistant city manager, and I guess a little kudos to Sean for adding a now online submission form where you can click on the original link where you would download, and you can fill in the form and hit submit, and it will go to the appropriate city staff member. So a lot easier and more convenient process, but it's kind of a neat thing from learning from perspective that was an issue. And lastly, I would just like to welcome our new chief and sergeant at arms over there, and glad you could be joining us.
I think the commission has pretty well covered it, but the one thing that I wanted to mention was I did get a notice in my water bill, the second attachment, the leaf and brush pickup is coming. So I think it's next week are you going to mention that, city manager? And maybe I took what she was going to say next week. And I will say that my neighborhood changed slightly. So I used to have pickup on Fridays, and now it's on Thursdays. So look very carefully at your zone and make sure that you don't miss it by a day, because that would have been detrimental, especially for my husband. He would have been really upset with me about that. But next week is the brush, which is like the sticks and the twigs. And then the 2 following weeks are bagged leaves and paper bags or loose leaves, as far as I know. I'm getting a head nod, so I think I got that right. Mine's on Thursday, someone remind me. Okay, I think that's everything for the commission. City manager, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. I'll touch on that just real briefly, and then we weren't quite ready to go ahead and announce that we may be delaying that just because of, well, Mother Nature and where we are now with the snow. Okay. While many areas in the city may have bare ground and visible ground, there's still quite a few neighborhoods that have still some feet of snow there. So we may be delaying that, and we will obviously notify everybody as soon as possible. Those decisions are still coming. We're going to see how much melts over today and tomorrow before I make that final decision, but we will let you know. But it's good to have that already in your mind. Now, I will say that while curbside may change or may be delayed, the drop-off location at the Fling Farm location will still be available for those that can do some yard work. So we can do that drop off, and I can certainly remind all of the commission and the residents on those hours and location next time. So,
Thank you.
yes, just a reminder that community office hours at Peter White Public Library, where you can have a chance to sit down with me over a cup of coffee, and city staff, Assistant City Manager Sean Hobbins usually joins us, and some other key staff members, where you can come and sit down and have a conversation, a little bit more one-on-one, and get some questions answered if you have some. And that will be Wednesday, April 13th from 10 to noon. And that's located on that first floor of the library, and you can come and visit. So an update on the docks. As we all kind of know, the docks decided to migrate and try to take a trip of its own back in February, and kind of smashed against that entrance and sustained some real serious damage. Those docks are currently secured, and they are still quite frozen in place. But we have had a chance to go ahead and look at the damage that is done, and it's fairly significant. It is possible, though, to still have a boating season. We were looking at May 1st to have that season kick off, but we are looking now closer to that June 1st. And I know that I was very optimistic we would be able to open on time or in May, but it's looking closer to June. And again, that's because they're still quite frozen, and we have not been able to remove those. I'm incredibly proud to say that the National Guard has stepped up and volunteered to really kind of help with that work and try to pull those docks onto shore and assist wherever they can. So that's a really great partnership, and we're really grateful and happy that they'd be able to lend a hand for that. Now, there's also been notice sent out to the boaters from the past season, and any interested boaters. We are still enforcing or still holding strong on that April 15th due date for reservations and payments. I understand that may be a little bit difficult to understand, but if we can open up as soon as possible, we want to be able to open up as soon as possible. And that system to hold reservations and keep reservations and the lengthy wait list that we do have is complicated. So we are staying true to the April 15th due date. However, if that boating season is delayed, which we are anticipating, we will be prorating that rate, and you would be receiving a refund for that. So again, we're going to remain optimistic and confident that we can get this open as soon as possible, but we're looking closer to June 1st. So that is all I have.
Could I please ask one
Yes.
follow-up question on that?
Yes.
So that is for complete use of the area? I guess, can folks still launch a boat from there even if the dock is not in place? That's my main question.
Obviously, it's going to depend on when we can secure that boat or that dock onto shore instead of having it where it's at, because right now you cannot get out. I do believe that is the intention, is to have that able to be to a launch for the boats as well. But I can clarify that for sure.
I was just thinking of it as you were speaking. Thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
good question. Thank you.
All right. I think that handles it for tonight. We're going to adjourn before 7 o'clock. It's 6:58 p.m. and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.